The Galician Dreadmore tears into the flesh of a thrashing Tsar steer, ripping stringy guts from the screaming beast as the Vucari Emperor gloats about the predator's killer ferocity. A collective gasp ripples through the alien dignitaries of the Galactic Council. They watch in bile-churning revulsion as the abomination gulps viscera and snaps bones, its venomous spittle sizzling on the arena sand. The monster's muscles bulge beneath armored plates as it ravages its prey. Tyro the Merciless, the scourge of the frontier, ravager of 1,000 worlds, lets loose a gurgling cackle at his pets' display of savagery. Behold the Dreadmore, no beast is its equal, no army can withstand its charge. This creature shall be the spear point of the Vexer legions as we grind the galaxy under our heel. Tyro pounds a meaty fist on his throne's armrest, studded leather creaks, and once the dread MO breeds, once we unleash a seething tidal wave of these glorious killing machines, all your home worlds, all your colonies, all you hold dear will fall to us. Surrender now and your subjugation shall be marginally less agonizing. The Kellian ambassador clacks her beak, ruffling her storm gray feathers. There must be a way to destroy those abominations. No organism is without weakness. The finest bioengineers from a dozen client species labored for centuries to design the ultimate fight, impervious to all known weapons, immune to toxin, plague, and radiation. It kills and kills and kills and will never stop until the universe is devoid of life. Tyro sprays ichor-tinged saliva as he bellows, your species will. A sudden boom makes him twitch. A fiery comet streaks from the bright green sky, trailing smoke. Spectators scream and scatter as the unknown object smashes into the stands in a burst of pulverized stone. A small shuttle battered and scorched, but the pilot seems to have survived. He kicks the door open and strides onto the arena. Sans a bipedal figure in a tattered pressure suit, carrying only a knife and a beat-up plasma rifle. He removes his helmet. The creature is hideous, nearly hairless, with unpled pinkish-brown skin. It has no scales, spines, or armored carapace. Pathetically naked and vulnerable, the creature begins striding toward the Dreadmore, pen heedless of the warnings blared over the loudspeakers or the Vorguards leveling their pulse rifles at its back. The Galactic Council erupts in panicked babble as the human approaches the Dreadmore's cage. The beast, finished devouring the Tsar cattle, sniffs the air and uncoils to its full height, drool stringing from its fangs. It utters a rattling hiss as the human draws near. If that lone deranged creature releases the Dreadmore, it will surely be torn limb from limb in seconds, but the killer will almost certainly escape into the city to rampage unchecked. Thousands will die unless this threat is contained. The human reaches for the CAG's keypad. The Dreadmore lunges, smashing against the bars hard enough to make the arena walls tremble. The council members grip their seats, powerless to do anything but watch the inevitable slaughter unfold. The Dreadmore locks eyes with Ralph and charges sh-likey claws, gouging the sand. Its crocodilian jaws spread wide to engulf him whole. The human dives sideways a split second before the monster's teeth snap shut. He hits the ground rolling and comes up firing as your plasma bolts sear the creature's scales but fail to penetrate. The beast wheels around with horrifying agility for its size and lunges again. Ralph backpedals, laying down, suppressing fire. Sizzling plasma bursts make the Dreadmore flinch and blink its slitted eyes. The human risks a glance at the Galactic Council spectators. They cower behind the wrecked stand, some whimpering in terror, a few brave souls peeking out to watch the fight. The Dreadmore follows his gaze and starts to turn toward the helpless dignitaries. Hey, ugly eyes on me. Ralph launches a flash grenade from his rifle's underbarrel launcher. The searing magnesium flare bursts before the monster's snout in a blaze of searing white. The Dreadmore recoils with an outraged shriek, shaking its horned head. Momentarily blinded, Tyro surges to his feet, his face purpling with fury as he watches the human make a fool of his prized war beast. The Vexer guards aim their pulse rifles at Ralph, but the Emperor gestures sharply for them to lower their weapons. No, I want to see how long this impudent pest lasts before the Dreadmore rips the flesh from his bones and just his marrow. The cruel monarch settles back onto his throne to enjoy the show, his earlier rage replaced by a sort of detached amusement. Ralph takes advantage of the monster's distraction to dart in close. He feints left. The Dreadmore pounces this time. He doesn't dodge, he waits until he can smell its faded breath, until he can see the strings of drool trailing from its fangs before leaping forward and rolling beneath its claws. He comes up running and jumps, boosting himself off the creature's haunch to land on its broad back. The human draws his combat blade and plunges it into the Dreadmore's neck, seeking a gap in Ichitus armor. The knife sinks to the hilt in leathery blue flesh. Purplish icer spurts from the wound. The beast screeches in pain, outrage, and bucks like a crazed bronco trying to throw him off. Ralph wraps his left arm around one of its dorsal spines and hangs on for dear life. He plants his feet against the small of its back and yanks the blade free. In a spray of blood, the Dreadmore's shriek rises and Octave Ralph raises the gore's slick knife to strike again, but the monster slams its flank against the arena wall, crushing him against the stone. The impact knocks the breath from his lungs. Something cracks in his chest, a rib, maybe two. His vision strobes red. The beast pushes off the wall and spins in a tight circle, but the stubborn human clings to his perch. Ralph shakes his head to clear it, wheezing for air. No time to catch his breath. Have to end this fast before it can go on a rampage. Get it under control. He sheaths his combat knife and reaches for the small device magnetized to his belt, a pre-programmed slave circuit the resistance techs assured him could override a dread more cybernetic neural implants, something about hijacking the pain-pleasure centers of its brain. His blood-slick fingers scrabble for the device as the monster bucks and rides beneath him just a little longer. Almost got it. One more second and Ralph pulls the slave circuit from his belt. As he clings to the Dreadmore's back, the beast's scales are slick with blood, both its own and the human's. Ralph's fingers slip, but he manages to slap the device against the creature's armored skull. He thumbs the activation switch. Nothing happens. The Dreadmore continues to thrash and screech, trying to throw him off. He presses the switch again, harder this time. The device crackles to life. A surge of foreign thoughts and sensations floods Ralph's mind, transmitted through the neural link. The Dreadmore's memories, its pain, its rage, all hitting him at once like a spike driven into his brain. He sees flashes of the creature's life, images of a harsh world of sand and stone, of towering bone-white cliffs and skies choked by ash. He feels the snap of a trap clamping down on the Dreadmore's leg, tastes blood and bitter despair as Vakari hunters swarm from the shadows. Ralph reels as the memories come faster, the agony of the beast's wounds, the humiliation as its captors fitted it with neural implants and battle armor, the hatred it feels for the Vakari and all who cage it, and beneath the fury Ralph senses a desperate yearning for freedom, to roam and hunt without restraint. He realizes the Dreadmore isn't so different from him. They're both prisoners in their own way. Gritting his teeth against the pain in his head, Ralph focuses on projecting his own thoughts to the creature. He sends feelings of empathy, of understanding. I know what it's like to have your life stolen from you, he mutters, not knowing if the beast can comprehend his words. I know you want to make them pay, but this isn't the way we can fight them together. Slowly the Dreadmore struggles weaken, its ear-splitting roars fade to low growls. The pain and rage Ralph sensed through their link recedes like a ebbing tide, replaced by something like acceptance, trust. He's not sure, but he knows the beast is listening. He pats its armored neck, running his hand over the scars crisscrossing its hide. That's it, easy now, we're in this together. Stunned silence falls over the arena as Ralph sits astride the Dreadmore, the savage monster turned docile beneath his touch. The human keeps whispering soothing words, never breaking eye contact with the beast for a moment. He dares to hope this insane plan might actually work. Then Tyro surges to his feet, his face contorted with rage. The guards hesitate, Dreadmore's power giving them pause, but a contingent of Tyro's most loyal soldiers step forward, locking their plasma rifles on the pair. Ralph tenses. There's nowhere to run, no cover to hide behind. This is it, this is how he dies, gunned down on some alien world light years from home. As the guards' fingers tighten on their triggers, the Dreadmore rears back and unleashes a deafening roar that shakes the arena to its foundations. The beast lunges forward, Ralph clinging to its back, and smashes into the stands with the force of a wrecking ball. Bones crunch and snap like dry twigs as the Dreadmore crushes the soldiers beneath its claws, painting the sand purple with their blood. The Dreadmore smashes through the arena seating, sending stone shards and Vexor bodies flying. Pulse rifles crack, searing plasma bolts ricochet off the beast's armored carapace. Ralph clings to the monster's back, projecting urgent commands through the neural link. He steers the creature toward the holding cells on the arena's far side, where the Vexor keep prisoners from their latest colonial raids. The Dreadmore barrels through the arena, crushing guards beneath its claws, its segmented tail lashing like a flail. Spectators scream and trample other in their haste to flee. Ralph barely hears them over the blood pounding in his ears. His whole world narrows to the feel of the Dreadmore's muscles bunching beneath him. The staccato crack of gunfire, the stink of blood and scorched flesh. Contain them, you idiots, Tyro roar cuts through the din. The Vexor Emperor spew orders at his guards, demanding they recapture the beast and its rider. A fank of soldiers assembles at the arena's exit, pulse rifles leveled at the charging Dreadmore. Ralph urges the monster to weave between the plasma bolts, stitching the air. At last they reach the holding cells. The Dreadmore slams against the reinforced walls, its claws gouging the metal. Dents appear in the barrier, but it holds. Ralph presses his hands against the Dreadmore's neck, picturing what he needs. The creature rears up and smashes the wall again and again. On the fourth blow the metal buckles. One more impact and the wall collapses inward with a screech of ruptured steel. The human prisoners inside cry out in fear as the Dreadmore bursts into their cell. They cower against the far wall, certain they're about to be devoured. Ralph slides off the monster back, raising his empty hands. "I'm human, I'm here to get you out," he shouts. The prisoners stare at him in shock. Some weep with relief, others look wildly at the Dreadmore hulking behind him. "Arm yourselves and stay close to me. We're going to fight our way to the docking bays. My ship's big enough for us." All the humans grab pulse rifles from dead guards and form up behind Ralph as he mounts the Dreadmore. Once more the beast smashes its way back into the arena, the humans jogging in its wake. Together they punch through the ring of Vicari guards barring the exit. The Dreadmore swat soldiers aside like gnats. The humans lay down, covering fire, driving the Vox Ari back. Tyro, howl of rage, shakes the arena as he sees his captives escaping. The Vexor Emperor hefts a massive plasma cannon and aims it at the Dreadmore. The air crackles with ozone. Ralph yanks hard on the slave circuit, making the Dreadmore stumble. A plasma bolt sizzles past close enough to sing his hair. The cannon hums as it cycles up for another shot. Ralph projects an urgent plea at the Dreadmore. The beast wheels to face Tyro. The Emperor fires a plasma bolt, slams into the Dreadmore's chest, knocking it sprawling. Ralph is hurled from its back. He hits the ground hard, his skull bouncing off the sand. His vision strobes red. Tyro strides toward Ralph's prone form, the cannon leveled at the human's head. "I will flay the skin from your flesh and feed your organs to my hounds." The Vexor hisses, his talon tightens on the trigger. A shadow falls over them both. Tyro looks up. The Dreadmore looms above him, its eyes blazing with hatred. Before the Emperor can react, the beast pounces. Its jaws clamp around Tyro torso. Venomous fangs puncture his battle armor like tin foil. The Emperor screams as the Dreadmore starts to shake him like a rag doll. Its teeth sunk deep into his flesh. Spurts of indigo blood paint the sand. Tyro body slams against the arena sand. The Dreadmore's fang still buried in his torso. Indigo blood pools around him as he convulses, the creature's venom searing through his veins like liquid fire. His ornate armor cracks and splits, the intricate circuitry beneath sparking and smoking. The Emperor's eyes roll back, bloody foam bubbling from his lips. He lets out a final rattling gasp, then goes limp. Chaos erupts in the stands as Vicari dignitaries and guards alike scramble to flee. Some soldiers level their rifles at the Dreadmore but hesitate to fire, afraid of hitting their fallen ruler. Ralph seizes the moment of confusion. He grabs a pulse rifle from a dead guard and leaps onto the Dreadmore's back. "Once more, run, go now," he shouts to the freed prisoners. He projects an urgent command through the neural link, and the Dreadmore surges forward, trampling Vexor soldiers as it smashes through the arena gates. The human prisoners follow close behind, their stolen rifles cracking as they lay down, covering fire. Ralph clings to the Dreadmore's armored hide as it races through the capital's winding streets. Pulse bolts sizzle past his head, alarms blare. Vexor citizens scream and dive for cover as the beast barrels through marketplaces and residential districts. The neural link floods Ralph's mind with the creature's rage and bloodlust. Part of him wants to turn back to tear into the Vexor forces pursuing them, but he grits his teeth and focuses on escape. "Have to get these people to safety." The Dreadmore skids around a corner, its claws gouging the street. A squad of Vexor soldiers blocks the path ahead, pulse cannons charged and humming. Ralph raises his rifle to return fire, but before he can pull the trigger, a plasma bolt slams into his shoulder from behind. He cries out, his gun clattering to the street. A second shot burns his back, the searing pain driving him to his knees. Behind him, the human prisoners shout in dismay as more Vicari troops pour from the alleyways surrounding them. The soldiers advance, rifles leveled, their chitus armor glinting in the city's neon lights. No way out there. Trapped, Ralph slumps against the Dreadmore's flank, fighting to stay conscious. Is this how it ends? Gunned down on some alien street so close to freedom. The Dreadmore snarls, its muscles bunching beneath him. Ralph senses its rage building, its desire to fight, to kill, but beneath that he feels something else, not fear but resignation. The beast knows it's cornered, that there's no escape. They're both about to die. Ralph reaches out through the neural link, projecting his own grim acceptance. "At least we'll go down fighting," he tells the Dreadmore. Together the beast rumbles its agreement as one. They face the closing circle of Vexor troops ready to make their final stand. A high teen wail splits the air like 1,000 souls screaming in unison. The Vexor soldiers look up, mandibles clicking in confusion. A shadow falls over the street. Ralph raises his head. A swarm of fighters screams overhead, plasma cannons blazing, not Vexor ships but a motley assortment of vessels from a dozen species. The Vexor troops shout in alarm as the fighters rake their ranks with searing energy bolts. Soldiers crumple, their armor scorched and smoking. Drop ships descend from the skies on pillars of blue flame, disgorging squads of Kellian raiders, Xian mercenaries and other species Ralph can't even name. They fall upon the Vicari with savage battle cries, fighting hand to hand in a writhing melee. The Dreadmore rises to its feet with a rattling growl. Ralph hauls himself upright, his wounds burning as he grips its neck spines for balance. He looks around in amazement as the Vexor line collapses, the alien warriors driving the back. A familiar voice crackles in his helmet. "Come, so Ralph, come in, it's Adrena, his Kellen contact in the Resistance. We're tracking your position, sit tight, we're on our way." "What's happening?" he croaks. "I thought we were on our own out here. The Galactic Council just declared open war on the Voxari. That stunt you pulled in the arena was all over the news feeds. Half the galaxy's rising up to join the fight." Ralph sags again against the Dreadmore, relief flooding him. They're not alone, not anymore. The battle rages in the streets, plasma bolts and pulse blasts crisscrossing the battlefield. A Vexor tank grinds around the corner, its main cannon seeking targets. The Dreadmore roars a challenge and charges to meet it. Heat in the tank fires a plasma bolt, slams into the monster's chest. It staggers, its head smoldering, but keeps coming. With Ralph clinging to its back, they slam into the tank with bone-crushing force. The Dreadmore's claws ripping into the metal, it tears the turret free and hurls it aside, then starts savaging the vehicle's innards, rending steel and composites. Vexor crewmen spill from the hatches. The Dreadmore pounces, its fangs and talons painting the street indigo. Ralph hammers a fist against his armored chest plate. Terror in Victor, he bellows, the old Earth battle cry tearing from his throat. The Dreadmore join with a blood-curdling shriek as one they hurl themselves back into the fray, the tide of the battle turning with every foe they fell. Ralph loses himself in the surge and flow of combat, the thunder of weapons and the stench of scorched flesh, fire and blood and death, but beneath it all the promise of a new beginning, the dream of a free galaxy where no species need bow to Vicari tyranny. Tyro death has thrown the Vicari into disarray, their forces falling back in confusion, but the battle is far from over as Ralph spurs the Dreadmore through the choked streets. He knows their fight has only just begun. The Vicari hardliners will never surrender, never accept defeat. They'll have to be rooted out star system by star system until the galaxy is finally free of their taint. High spots of Vexor spaceport at the end of the boulevard, sleek warships lined up in neat rows. A grim smile touches his split lips. That's their ticket off this rock, time to take the fight to the Vexor, to show them what it means to mess with the human race. He sends a silent command through the neural link and the Dreadmore surges toward the port, trampling barricades and sentry guns. Pulse fire stitches the air. A squad of Vexor elites guards the port's perimeter, their bulky armor bristling with spines and blades. At their head stands a massive warrior, his scales jet black, his eyes is cold and merciless. Commander Z Tyro, second in command and notorious enforcer. The hardliner snarls, raising an immense pulse cannon. "Surrender, human filth." Z's voice booms from external speakers. "The Dreadmore Vexor property, relinquish it and your death will be swift." Ralph urges the Dreadmore forward, never breaking stride. His plasma rifle hums as it cycles up to full power. The monster's claws gouge the tarmac, its armored tail crashing behind it. "I've got a counter-offer," Ralph growls into his helmet comm. "How about you go yourself?" The human and the Dreadmore charge, plasma bolts and pulse rounds filling the air as they crash into the Vexor line. Ralph fires his rifle, one-handed, blasting a hole through a guard's kitish chest plate. The Dreadmore shrieks and pounces, bearing a squad of soldiers to the ground. It rips and tears, alien blood spraying. Zach Rowe draws his fury and aims his cannon at Ralph's back. The human throws himself aside just as a plasma bolt screeches past, close enough to scorch his armor. He rolls to his feet, rifle leveled at the Vexor commander. Zach's elite guard class ranks around their leader, a wall of spines and armored scales. Ralph risks a glance over his shoulder. The Dreadmore is surrounded, pulse rounds hammering its hide as it slashes and bites in a frenzy. It can't hold out much longer, have to end this quick. He lunges at Zek, a wordless battle cry ripping from his throat. The Voxy brings his cannon around, a vicious grin splitting his fanged MO. A shadow falls over them both. Zach looks up, his eyes widening. The Dread MO looms above the Vicari, its segmented tail dripping indigo gore, its fangs bead in a vicious snarl. The beast must have broken free of the soldiers hemming it, and it rears up to its full height, towering over the stunned commander. Zach swings his cannon around, but he's too slow. The Dreadmore's jaws clamp around the weapon, crushing reinforced Duraplast like paper. Zach staggers back, frantically keying his gauntlet cow, shouting for reinforcements. The Dreadmore lunges, bearing the Vexor commander to the ground. It pins him down, its claws sinking into his arms and chest, piercing his armor. Zach screams, thrashing beneath the creature's bulk. He stares up at Ralph, eyes wide with terror. "Wait, I surrender, I yield." The commander babbles, indigo blood flecking his lips. "I can give you ships, weapons, anything you want, just let me Live Ralph steps closer, plasma rifle aimed at Zack's head. He feels the dread. Moore's rage pulsing through the neural link, its hunger for vengeance. The beast wants to rip and tear, to paint the spaceport with the Vexor blood. It would be so easy to give in to that urge to let the dread more savage Z as it did Tyro. The galaxy would be better off without his kind. But as Ralph stares down at the beaten commander, he feels a twinge of pity. Zack is a product of his cruel culture, as much a slave to Vexor bloodlust as the dread more once was. If they butcher him now, how are they any better than the creatures they fight? He lowers his rifle. No, we're not going to kill you, Ralph says. Zack sags with relief, but Ralph's next words make him stiffen. We're taking you prisoner. You're going to face trial for your crimes. The Vexor commander thrashes beneath the dread Moore's claws. Trial? You can't do this. I am a lord of the Vakari Empire. The Vexor Empire is finished, Ralph says coldly. Tyro is dead. Your fleets are in retreat. It's over. He keys his helmet. Come, Adreno, we've got a high-value prisoner for transport. Warm up a shuttle. We're headed your way. Roger that. The Kellen's voice crackles back. Weck, throw this scaly bastard in the brig. See you soon. Ralph nods to the dread Moore. The beast snarls its disappointment but obeys his mental command. It hauls Zack to his feet, the commander's arms pinned behind his back. Together the human and the monster march their prisoner toward the waiting drop ships, leaving the spaceport littered with the broken bodies of Vexor warriors. As Ralph climbs into the nearest shuttle, he looks out at the burning city, listening to the sounds of battle still echoing in the distance. The Vexor hardliners won't give up easily. They'll fight to the last soldier, the last ship, the last drop of blood. But for the first time in a long time, he feels a flicker of hope. The galaxy is rising against its oppressors. A new era is dawning, a future free of Vexor cruelty, and he and the Dreadmore will be there to see it through no matter the cost. The Vexor soldiers advance, pulse rifles humming with deadly charge. Ralph can smell the ozone tang of plasma coils cycling to full power. He raises his own battered rifle, the handful of rounds left in the magazine barely a comforting weight around him. The ragged band of human survivors ready their own weapons. A mighty assortment of scavenged Vexor arms. They're all exhausted, battered, running on dregs of fear and desperation. The Dreadmore hunkers behind their thin line, its flanks heaving, its hide scorched and pitted by plasma fire, but its eyes still blaze with fury. Its claws flex and gouge the blood-slick spaceport tarmac. Ralph can feel its rage pulsing through the neural link, its hunger to rend and tear. Even now, even wounded and weary, it yearns to fight. Hold the line, he says over the comm, his voice lean with fatigue. This is our only shot. We hold until IAC arrives or we die here. The human prisoners turned fighters nod grimly. They've come too far to give up now. The Vakari battalion advances across the spaceport, a tide of spines and armored scales. Z leads from the front. A jugged and spiked black plate. His soldiers fan out in practiced formation, the tips of their pulse rifles glowing like baleful stars. Ralph's rifle beeps a warning. The power cell's nearly dry. He ejects the magazine, reaching for another, but his ammo pouches are empty. The other humans are in similar straits, their weapons clicking dry or venting hissing steam as they overheat. This is it then. This is how it ends, not in a blaze of defiant glory but on some nameless tarmac light years from home. Just more meat for the Vexor war machine. He grits his teeth, rising to one knee behind the shattered wing of a wrecked shuttle, raising his rifle to use as a CL club. A shuddering roar splits the air so loud it shakes Ralph's bones and sets his teeth on edge. For an instant he thinks it's the dread More bellowing its defiance, but no, this is a deep throaty thunder, a sound he's heard countless times before. The rumble of human engines. He risks a glance skyward. The smoke-stained clouds burn as lances of searing blue plasma stab down from the heavens, hammering into the Vox ranks. Aliens scream and burn. Caught in the hellish barrage, drop ships hurtled down from fat-belly transports in low orbit, the sharks of the void disgorging power armored commandos into the fray. Captain Lena Ramirez hits the ground like a meteor, her armor shimmering with distortion fields and flickering hard light shields. She rises from a crouch with a sharkish grin, her heavy plasma cannon swiveling and tracking. The cannon roars and the closest Vexor vanish in a hell glow of ravening energy. Heard you boys needed a hand, Lena says over the comm, her voice flush with battlefield glee. Thought we'd drop in. Ralph staggers to his feet as Lena's commandos surge forward, a spear point of human fury. They're Valkyries, the finest warriors humanity has to offer, each one worth 100 Vexor grunts. They slam into the enemy like a hammer of gods, plasma hissing and mono-edged blades flashing. Zack bellows in fury, directing his soldiers to focus fire on the human regulars. The Valkyries are too swift, too well shielded, better to cut the heart from the resistance by killing Ralph and the other survivors. Ralph screams at his cordwood. The Dreadmore rises from its crouch with a roar to shake the heavens. It oils and springs, smashing into the Vexor flanks like a tidal wave of talons and fangs. Z soldiers scream and flail as the beast rips into them, painting the tarmac indigo with their blood. The Monster is pain and rage incarnate, an avatar of humanity's desperate fury. Ralph sprints to Lena's side. Snatching up a fallen Valkyrie's plasma lance, the weapon hums and shivers in his hands, sinking to his armor systems. Together the two soldiers charge into the fight, the dread more rampaging before them. It's almost too easy now. The Vexor are in full rout, fleeing before the beast's wrath. Ralph's blood sings with the thrill of victory until a shadow falls across the battlefield. He looks up, his heart plummeting. A Vor dreadnought hangs in the sky, a vast crescent of spines and armor. Flights of attack craft pour from its bays like hornets from a nest, lancing down to strafe the humans with serious aim. Plasma Z laughs over the comms, the sound grating and cruel. Did you think your paltry resistance could stop the might of the Vakari Empire? I will enjoy flaying the skin from your bones and feeding your living flesh to the Dreadmore once it is back under our control. The Dreadnought's main guns swivel and aim the air, shimmering as titanic energies build within their barrels. One shot from those planet-cracking cannons will reduce the spaceport to molten slag. Ralph looks. Selena sees his own desperate resolve mirrored in her eyes. There's only one way this ends now. Get our people out, he says, nodding to the battered drop ships. I'll hold them. Ralph, go. He turns away before she can argue, sprinting for the Dreadmore. The beast crouches at his approach, shuddering with barely restrained blood lust. Ralph leaps astride its back, the neural link surging to life between them. He sees the battlefield through the monster's eyes, now feels the heat of its breath, the power in its coiled chest. He sees the threat of the dread hanging overhead, the flights of ATT attack craft weaving and banking, strafing the humans with waves of plasma. He feels the Dreadmore's rage build in the back of its throat, a throaty snarl building to a deafening roar. In that moment he understands what must be done. Hang on, he tells the Dreadmore through the link. This is going to get rough. The beast bunches beneath him, its claws gouging the tarmac. Ralph tightens his grip on its dorsal spines, his breath coming hard and fast. The Dreadmore surges forward, not toward the Vexor soldiers but to the shattered stump of a plasma-blasted comm tower. It leaps, its talons sinking into the tower's crumbling surface, and begins to climb, carrying Ralph with it higher and higher. They go until the battlefield is a distant tableau below, the humans and Vexor toy figures clashing in the rubble. The Dreadmore reaches the tower's summit and leaps again, its powerful haunches propelling it across the yawning gap to the hull of a Vexor frigate hanging at the Dreadnought's flank. Ralph clings to the monster's spines, his heart hammering against his ribs. The frig's hull is slick with condensation, pitted and scarred from the battle's fury, but the Dreadmore's claws find purchase in the rents and tears, and it surges forward, bounding across the hull with Ralph on its back. Plasma turrets swivel to track them, stabbing at the hull with hissing spears of energy. The Dreadmore evades their fire, leaping and twisting with feline grace. Ralph adds his own fire to the mix, his plasma lance searing glowing holes in the frig's armor. They reach the ship's stern, where its primary engines flare with blue-white radiance. The Dreadmore pauses at the edge of the hull, its muscles bunching beneath Ralph. He tightens his grip, projecting his desperate plan through the link. The beast snarls its understanding and leaps for a single terrifying heartbeat. They hang in the void between ships, the Dreadnought looming below like a crescent moon of death. Then the Dreadmore's claws find the Dreadnought's hull, the impact shuddering through Ralph's bones. The beast scrambles for purchase, its talons gouging long runnels, and the warship's hide alarms blare and Vexor crew boil from airlocks like ants from a flooded nest. Plasma rifles spitting fire. Ralph picks them off with precise shots from his lance, the Dreadmore's sinuous motion steadying his aim. They advance up the Dreadnought's hull, a single unstoppable entity united by the neural link, the beast's fury and the human skill combining into something unbeatable. Zack's voice blares from the warship's external speakers, distorted by rage. Shoot them down, destroy that abomination and its human thrall. But it's already too late. Ralph and the Dreadmore reach the Dreadnought's command decks, a soaring spire of armored transpara steel beyond the viewports. Ralph can see the Vexor bridge crew scrambling, incarnation Z pacing and snarling. The Dreadmore flexes its claws, its muscles bunching beneath Ralph. He raises his plasma lance, lips peeling back from his teeth in a feral grin as one they strike. The Dreadmore's talons puncture the bridge's viewport, a hurricane of shattered transpare steel and howling void breath. Ralph opens fire, his lance stitching a killing line across the bridge crew. Zack roars in fury and fear, scrabbling for the manual controls, but the Dreadmore is faster. It wrenches the hole wider and slithers onto the bridge, Ralph rolling from its back to rake the survivors with plasma fire. This isn't possible, Zack rages, his eyes wide and rolling with terror. You're just meat chattel, you can't defeat the Vexor Empire. Ralph advances on the cowering commander, his lance leveled at Zack's head. That's where you're wrong, you scaly bastard. We're human, we don't know when to quit. Zack goes for his sidearm, a last desperate gambit. The Dreadmore's tail lashes out a crescent of chitin and bone, and the Vor commander's head goes pinwheeling across the bridge in a spray of indigo blood. He looks to the dread Moor, sees the beast's flanks heaving with exhaustion, its hide slick with its own blood. It meets his gaze, and in that moment no neural link is necessary. The understanding that passes between them is pure and primal, the bond of comrades forged in the crucible of war. Together they limp to the bridge's escape pods, ready to rejoin the fight below. There will be time to rest later, to mourn the fallen and rebuild what was lost, but for now there is still work to be done. For now the war goes on. Ralph's mind races as he projects a rapid-fire sequence of images and commands through the neural link guiding the Dreadmoor's actions. The beast snars its understanding and launches itself at Commander Zay, the ship's deck plates shuddering beneath its bulk. Z barely has time to register the creature's charge before it slams into him, pinning him to the floor with a heavy-toned foot. The Dreadmoor's jaws snap inches from the Vexor commander's face, its hot breath washing over his scales. Z thrashes and curses, but the Dreadmoor's weight keeps him immobile. The beast leans close, its fangs bead in a vicious snarl. It raises a claw, poised to strike a killing blow, but instead it delivers a calculated strike to Zay's temple. The Vexor goes limp, unconscious but alive as the Dreadmoor holds Zay in place. Face Ralph sprints to the ship's control panel, his heart hammering against his ribs. The self-destruct countdown pulses on the main view screen, the numbers ticking down with merciless speed. Ralph's hands fly over the controls, his eyes darting across readouts and status displays. He's no expert in Vexor systems, but he's hacked his fair share of alien tech. He just needs to find the right command sequence, the right override code. The countdown drops below 30 seconds. Ralph grits his teeth, his fingers are blur on the keypad. The Dreadmoor growls an urgent rumble that vibrates through the ship's hull. 20 seconds, 15. Ralph's breath comes in ragged gasps, his vision tunneling. He can't let it end like this, not when they've come so far, not when so many lives hang in the balance. 10 seconds. Ralph slams his fist against the console, a wordless cry of frustration and desperation tearing from his throat, and then with a soft chime, the countdown freezes. The ship's computer speaks in a calm, modulated voice. Self-destruct sequence aborted, all systems nominal. Ralph staggers back from the control panel, his knees weak with relief. He did it, he actually did it. The Dreadmoor rumbles its approval, the sound almost like a purr. Ralph rests a hand on the creature's flank, projecting his gratitude and exhaustion through the link, but there's no time to rest, not yet. Ralph straightens, his jaw set with determination. He steps over Zack's prone form and accesses the ship's communication array. With a few quick commands he patches into the Vexor battle net, his voice echoing through every ship and Sotter's comm unit. This is Ralph, the human who tamed the Dreadmoor. Your emperor is dead, your commander is defeated, your flagship is under my control. It's over. Lay down your arms and surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Continue to fight, and you will be destroyed. The choice is yours. Silence falls across the comms, broken only by the crackle of static. For a long tense moment Ralph fears his words have fallen on deaf ears, but then one by one the Vucari ships power down their weapons and lower their shields on the planet's surface. The hardliners' forces lay down their arms, their will to fight extinguished as the news of the surrender spreads. Cheers erupt from the human fleet in the city below. The battle is won, the war is over. Ralph slumps against the Dreadmoor, a laugh bubbling up from his chest, a laugh of joy, of disbelief, of sheer overwhelming relief. In the hours that follow, the human fleet lands in the city, the rescued prisoners running into the arms of their loved ones. Tears flow freely as families are reunited, as friends long thought lost are embraced once more. The air rings with laughter and sobs of joy, the sounds of a people finally free from the yoke of Vexor oppression. Amidst the celebration a sleek silver ship descends from the sky, the insignia of the Galactic Council emblazoned on its hull. The council members disembark, their robes fluttering in the breeze, their faces solemn but hopeful. They have come to negotiate a new era of peace, to forge a future where humans and Vexor may live side by side as equals. At the center of it all stands Ralph, the Dreadmoor at his side. The council members approach, their eyes wide with wonder and respect. They have seen the footage of Ralph's deeds, of his bond with the galaxy's apex predator. They know they stand in the presence of a legend. As the negotiations begin, Ralph takes a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. He thinks of all he has endured, of the battles he has fought and the losses he has suffered, but he also thinks of the hope he has kindled, of the future he has helped to shape. With the Dreadmoor at his side, Ralph steps forward to meet the council members, ready to share his story and his vision, ready to build a new galaxy, one where all species may thrive in harmony and understanding. As the Peace Summit progresses, an unsettling silence falls over the remote moon base where Prince Zahn has gathered his Vexor extremist forces. The vengeful prince paces before his assembled soldiers, his eyes burning with barely contained rage. He can't accept the surrender, can't stomach the Thought of a galaxy where Vakari and humans coexist as equals. My father was a fool, Zahn snarls. His voice dripping with contempt. He let his obsession with that abomination cloud his judgment, but I will succeed. Where he failed, we will take back what is ours and exterminate the human vermin once and for all. The extremists roar their approval, stamping their feet and beating their chests in a primal display of aggression. Zahn grins, baring his fangs. He activates a holographic display showing a schematic of the capital city. We strike during the signing ceremony, so chaos assassinate their leaders. Recapture the Dreadmore. He clenches a clawed fist, and I will personally rip the head from that human's shoulders. Light years away in the capital's grand assembly hall, the mood is one of cautious optimism. Human and Vexer delegates stand side by side as the final terms of the treaty are read aloud. Ralph watches from his place of honor, the Dreadmore crouched at his side like a loyal hound. Suddenly a plasma bolt sears through the air, narrowly missing Ralph's head. Screams erupt as more shots ring out. Vexer extremists emerge from the shadows, firing into the crowd. Council members and dignitaries fall, cut down before they can react. Ralph leaps to his feet, drawing his sidearm, but a powerful blow sends him sprawling. He looks up to see Prince Zakon looming over him, an obsidian blade in his hand. You took everything from me, the prince hisses. Now I will repay the favor. He lunges his blade, a dark blur. Ralph rows aside, the obsidian edge scoring the floor where he'd been a heartbeat before. He comes up firing, but Zahn is too fast, too strong. The prince beats aside Ralph's shots with contemptuous ease. All around them the battle rages. Human security forces rally, engaging the extremists in vicious close quarters combat. The Dreadmore roars, tearing through Vexer soldiers like wet tissue paper, but more keep coming, pouring into the assembly hall in a never-ending tide of fangs and claws and hate. Ralph parries a flash from Zahn's blade, the force of the blow numbing his arm. He can't keep this up. The prince is too skilled, too driven by rage and revenge. Ralph stumbles back, his heel catching on a fallen body. He hits the ground hard, the wind driven from his lungs. Zahn stands over him, obsidian blade poised for the killing blow. Pathetic, the prince sneer. Is this the best the vaunted hero of humanity can muster? A plasma bolt SLS into Zahn's shoulder, spinning him around. More shots rain down, forcing the prince to retreat. Ralph looks up to see a group of Vexer, their armor battered but their eyes fierce, moving to flank Zaxxon traitors. The prince roars, you would side with the humans against your own kind. The lead rebel, a scarred female with eyes like chips of ice, levels her rifle at Zonk's chest. We side with honor, she says coldly, with the dream of a galaxy where all species may live in peace. You and your father's legacy are a cancer that must be cut out. Zahn howls his fury and hurls himself at the rebels. Obsidian blade flashing, the female Vakari meets his charge. Hedon, a rebel on either side, and the battle is joined once more. Ralph and the Dreadmore slam into Prince Zahn's elite guard, a whirlwind of fangs, claws and plasma fire. The Vor rebels harry the extremists from the flanks, their shots precise and deadly. Zahn snarls in fury, his obsidian blade flashing as he parries. Ralph strikes the prince as a blur of spines and armored plates, his natural Vexer speed and strength augmented by his high-tech battle suit. But Ralph has the Dreadmore, and together they are unstoppable. The beast rampages through the extremists, crushing them beneath its claws while Ralph keeps Zahn engaged. Zahn's guard falls one by one, tee apart by the rebels and the Dreadmore. The prince stumbles back, his blade shattered, his armor dented and sparking. He looks around at his decimated forces, at the human and rebel Vakari closing in, and his eyes blaze with hatred. You think you've won, Zahn hisses, his claws tapping at his gauntlet. You've only doomed yourselves. Ralph's eyes widen as his implant feeds him the telemetry, an enormous energy signature growing rapidly beneath the city. A bomb, Zahn's last resort, a final act of spite. No, Ralph leaps at the prince, but Zakon vanishes in a haze of displacement energy, his mocking laughter echoing as he teleports away. The ground rumbles, cracks splitting the plaza building, foundations groan. The Dreadmore whips its head around, snarling at the unseen threat. Ralph reaches out through the neural link, shows it the danger. The beast's rage crystallizes into purpose. Ralph points at the growing fishes there, find the bomb. The Dreadmore lunges into the crass claws, gouging the bedrock as it descends into the depths. Ralph feels its single-minded determination. The hunt now on for a new kind of prey. He tracks its progress through the neural link, a mo of thought racing through the subterranean maze above. The city shakes itself apart. Towers crumble, fires erupt, screams echo. The Vexer rebels and human soldiers scramble to evacuate, civilians racing against the clock. Plasma cutters and demolition charges blast paths through the rubble, desperate escape routes to the city's outskirts. In the buried depths, the Dreadmore homes in on the bomb's energy signature, a baleful star pulsing at the planet's core, the creature crashes through layer after layer of ancient strata, the pressure and heat nearly unbearable even for its armored bulk. At last it breaks through into a vast cavern, a hidden vor bunker from the planet's bloody history, and there, squatting at the center like a malevolent tumor, is the bomb. It dwarfs even the dread Morris sphere of nightmarish circuitry and exotic matter. The countdown flashes blood red. 30 seconds. The dread Moor blasts the bomb with plasma, but the yields dissipate harmlessly against its shimmering barriers. It lunges, rakes the device with its claws, but the bomb's shell remains intact. 20 seconds. Ralph, seeing through the dread Moor's eyes, blanches at the bomb's implacable durability. They can't destroy it, can't even scratch it, but maybe he floods the link with images of the sky, of soaring, of escape. The dread Moor understands instantly. It sinks its claws into the bomb's house, and muscles bunching as it rips the device from its moorings. In a shower of sparks, warning klaxons blare, but the countdown continues unabated. 10 seconds. The dread Moor leaps upward, smashing through layer after layer of rock, the bomb clutched tight to its chest. Ralph feels the creature's exhilaration as it rises, sees the shaft of light growing brighter above the city, rushes up to meet them, shattered but still standing. With a final heave, the dread Moor breaches the surface, erupting from the broken plaza in a geyser of rubble. It crouches, muscles coiling, then leaps mightily into the sky. The wind screams past as it climbs higher and higher, the city dwindling beneath its claws. 5 seconds. Ralph feels the dread Moor's determination, its grim resolve. It will carry this weapon away as far as it can to save the city and the fragile peace they've bought with so much blood. He tries to urge it to release the bomb to save itself, but he knows it's too late. The dread Moor has made its choice. In that crystallized moment, Ralph feels the totality of the creature's being, the pain and rage of its servitude, the exaltation of its newfound freedom and purpose, and beneath it all a startling wellspring of selfless nobility, a willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. It's so human it breaks Ralph's heart. He can't let it die as a slave, a tool of the vexer cruelty. With anguish and love in equal measure, Ralph reaches out through the neural link and severs the connection, setting the dread Moor free. The creature's mind whirls in momentary confusion, then solidifies with newfound clarity. It understands, it feels Ralph's respect, his grief, his gratitude. The human and beast regard each other one last time across the burning sky. Then, with a rattling roar of defiance and triumph, the dread Moor surges upward, climbing into the heavens. With its deadly burden it rises until its armored form is lost to sight. Ralph watches it go, tears tracking through the ash on his face. He counts the seconds, lips moving in a soundless prayer to any gods that might be listening. The sky ignites, a second sun blooms in the heavens, a sphere of fire and plasma that sears Ralph's retinas even through his helmet's dimming visor. The shock wave hits a moment later, a wall of sound and pressure that hurls him from his feet. He tumbles across the rubble SWN plaza, fetching up hard against a slagged ground car. The roar goes on and on, thundering in Ralph's bones. A fist of wind hammers the ruins, scattering debris like chaff. Somewhere nearby a building groans and collapses. In a roar of tortured metal, flames howl through the streets. Then, as suddenly as it began, the maelstrom subsides. An awful silence falls, broken only by the crackle of fires and the distant wail of alarms. Ralph holds himself upright, his eyes locked on the rowing mushroom clouds staining the sky of the dread Moor. There is no sign. A clawed hand grips his shoulder. Ralph turns to see a battered Vor rebel, her armor scorched and dented beyond her other survivors. Emergency from the ruins. Humans and Vexer alike united in their shock and grief. They had saved us, the rebel says. Her voice roar with emotion. Your beast, it saved us all. Ralph nods, not trusting himself to speak. His heart feels like a black hole, a yawning void where the dread Moor's presence once burned bright. The city is shattered, the peace they fought for balanced on a knife's edge, but they're alive against all odds. They've survived because of the dread Moor, because of its courage and sacrifice. Ralph squares his shoulders, forcing down the grief, the guilt, the gaping sense of loss. There will be time to mourn later, to honor the dread Moor's memory, but for now there's work to do. He reaches out to clasp the rebel's shoulder and turn a warrior salute. We saved each other, he says, his voice rough but steady. That's what the dread Moor taught us, that's the legacy it leaves behind. Ralph turns to face the gathered survivors, humans and Vexer standing shoulder to shoulder amidst the ruins. The light of a new dawn breaks over the shattered city, casting long shadows across the crumbled streets and broken towers. The road ahead will be hard, a struggle to rebuild from the ashes, but in that moment, looking out over the assembled faces of former enemies turned allies, Ralph feels a flicker of hope amid the grief. The dread Moor is gone. But its spirit lives on in the bonds forged through shared trauma and sacrifice, in the uneasy but determined truce between species, in the glimmering potential for a future free of the cycle of hatred and oppression. It will be a long and difficult path, Ralph knows, but he also knows they won't walk it alone. The dread more will be with them every step of the way, not in body but in memory, in legend, in the unbreakable ties that bind the galaxy's disparate peoples together. Ralph lifts his plasma lance high, the battered weapon glinting in the watery sunlight, for the Dreadmaw raise their own weapons in answer, a ragged but defiant cheer rising from human and Vakari throats alike. The cry echoes from the rubble, rising into the brightening sky, a tribute to the fallen, a promise to the living, a vow to carry the Dreadmoor's dream forward no matter the cost. The battle is over, the war is won. But the struggle for peace, for understanding, for unity, sir, that fight has only just begun, and Ralph and his newfound comrades will meet at Hedon with the Dreadmoor's indomitable spirit to light their way. Grief and hope, loss and triumph, despair and determination, all these swirl through Ralph's heart as he leads the survivors out of the ruins towards the distant gleam of a new and uncertain dawn. The future sprawls before them, unwritten and unknown, but they'll face it as they faced Zahn and his horrors together, united by the unbreakable bonds of sacrifice and shared purpose, for the Dreadmoor, for the dream of peace, for the promise of tomorrow. The struggle continues, and Ralph and his allies will not rest until the Dreadmoor's legacy is truly fulfilled, a galaxy where all species stand as one, free from the shackles of fear and oppression. It's a long road ahead, but the first step has been taken, the first blow struck, and as Ralph marches towards the horizon, the rebels at his side, he feels the Dreadmoor's presence. Still a fire in his blood, a light in his soul. The galaxy will never be the same. And that's a good thing, the best thing, the only thing that matters, for in the end the Dreadmoor's true gift wasn't its strength or ferocity, but its heart, its spirit, the unquenchable spark of hope and unity that now burns in Ralph's chest and in the hearts of all who fought alongside it. That flame will never die, not as long as there are those willing to carry it forward, to nurture it and help it grow, and Ralph knows with a bone-deep certainty that he and his comrades will do just that. To matter the trials ahead, no matter the enemies they face, they'll face them together, for the Dread MW, for each other, for the dream of a galaxy reborn. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your watching.